The skipper got downstairs next morning, much to our chagrin, and took his breakfast as usual. Bobby ate little and drank more than his share of grog. He helped himself at the bar, scowling and blowing smoke through his nose. No one dared to cross him. On the night before the funeral, his drunken behavior remained unchanged. His outrageous conduct shocked us. It was unconscionable to hear him singing away at his ugly old space songs in a house of mourning still. As weak as he acted, we still feared him. The doctor was miles away on another case and couldn't be here after my father's death. I remarked how Bobby appeared frail and seemed to grow weaker by the day. Somehow, he clambered up and down the stairs, too confused to manage his anti-gravity belt. The skipper stumbled from the parlor to the bar and back again. Sometimes he put his nose outdoors to smell the salt air, holding onto the wall for support, breathing hard and fast. He never approached me, and I believe he forgot his promises. His temper flared more violently than ever. Bobby had an alarming way now, when drunk, of drawing his electro blade. He would lay it before him on the table, with its low intimidating hum. As with everything, he minded people less and seemed lost in his own wandering thoughts. Once, for example, to our amazement, he sang a different tune. It was a country love song he must have learned in his youth before he followed the stars. The ghosts of our history will follow us there, and the winds of the old days will blow us, who knows where. The day after the funeral on a bitter, frosty afternoon, I stood at the door and stared into the distance. My head was full of sad thoughts about my father. I missed him and wished he could be here and in good health to set the skipper straight. Then, I saw someone inching along the road on a floatboard I'd only seen in a museum. It was 2 foot square with jetports sticking out from both the back and beneath it. The board made wheezing, clanking sounds as if it had asthma. Occasionally it belched out thick puffs of black smoke as it puttered along the road. As the figure drew nearer, I recognized he was a mantron. We don't get many mantrons in this quadrant of the outer rim. They're as scarce as the floatboard he rode. His wrinkled skin retained a chalky gray pallor. Eyes bulged from a tiny head, and his arms folded at an angle. To my mind, he looked like a praying mantis. At first, I thought he knelt on the board, but once he came close enough for me to get a good look, I saw he had no legs. He hunched over, as if from age or infirmity, and wore a tattered cloak with a hood making him appear deformed. I never in my life encountered a more dreadful-looking figure. He stopped a few feet in front of the inn, and raised his voice in an odd chirping manner. "Will you, kind friend, help a poor cripple who lost his legs in the gracious defense of his native planet, Mantis? God bless King Brelo wherever he be, may he live to be 1003. I see I've arrived at the Crow's Nest Inn of Sheer Cliff Cove." He pointed to the sign. "It's damaged." I nodded. "Will you give me your hand, my kind young friend, and lead me inside the inn?" His behavior struck me as queer and I wanted to say no, but a spark of pity ignited in my conscience and I held out my hand. The horrible, soft-spoken creature gripped it harder than a vice. His quickness and strength startled me. I struggled to free myself, but the old cripple pulled me closer with a single tug of his arm. "Now boy," his protruding red eyes seemed to bore into me. "Take me to Bobby." "Sir, he's in one of his moods, I don't dare." "Oh," he sneered, "no excuses. Take me in straight away or I'll break your arm." He twisted my arm as he spoke, making me cry out in pain. "Sir," I pleaded, "I'm not concerned about myself, it's you." The skipper's become unbalanced. He sits all day and night with his electro blade drawn. He brandishes it without warning, not caring what or who's near him. "Come now, Marge," the cripple ordered. I never heard a voice so cold or cruel, or as ugly as his. It cowed me quicker than the pain in my arm, and I obeyed him without question. We went through the parlor and into the bar where the skipper sat, slumped in a chair. Too dazed with grog, he didn't hear the put, put, put of the approaching floatboard. The cripple man held me in an iron grip and the pain was almost more than I could bear. "Lead me to him." When we were out of reach of his electro blade, I cried out, "Here's a friend for you, Bob." The cripple gave me a jolt from his stunt staff I thought would make me faint. He scared me so, I forgot my fear of the skipper. As I neared the bar, I said in a trembling voice, what he told me to say. The skipper raised his eyes. With one look, the grog went straight out of him and left him staring wide-eyed and sober. His expression seemed less like sheer terror and closer to mortal sickness. He tried to stand, but didn't have enough strength. The beggar brought his hand down to his side. "Now, Bob, sit where you are. If I see a finger stirring, well," he held his stun staff aloft, "business is business. Hold out your hand." He nudged me. "Boy, take his left hand and bring it near to my right." I obeyed him without question, and saw the beggar pass something into Bobby's palm, which closed around the object. "And now it's done." He let go of me and with incredible nimbleness and floated out of the inn and onto the road. I stood motionless, with my mouth agape, listening to his floatboard go putt, putt in the distance. Several minutes passed before the skipper or I regained our senses. It seemed longer than an hour before he opened his hand and looked at the glass eye in his palm. A beam of light shot up from its iris. The beggar's holographic face appeared before him and said in that ugly, cruel voice of his, 10 o'clock. "You have until 10 o'clock. The skipper shuddered. "We've got 6 hours. We'll outwit them yet." He sprang to his feet. Once upright, Bobby reeled, put his hand to his throat, teetered for a moment, and with a peculiar sound, fell flat on his face. I ran to him and called for my mother, but it was too late. The skipper lay dead. It's a curious thing, I never liked the man, but as soon as I saw his lifeless body, I burst into tears. It was the second death I'd known in as many days, and the anguish of my father's death still lay heavy on my heart.